Assignment 1 introduced you to the basics of shooting and editing video. Assignment 2 elaborated on some of the tricks you can use to add a bit of life to otherwise stationary elements. Assignment 3 then will iterate on those lessons and further expand your options as video storytellers and communicators. This assignment will see you producing a video that highlights an aspect of your personal CVGS experience. If it helps you to imagine a target audience, imagine you're making this video for a freshman or sophomore student who's thinking about applying to Governor School. You could talk about your junior research project, another tech lab, or some other experience that a typical school visit or presentation simply wouldn't have the time to cover. Remember that taking a little time to plan out your video can make shooting and editing a lot easier in the long run. Here's an example of what a video postcard could look like.
Hi, this is Mr. Wetzel, and this is my video postcard. Now, when it comes to describing my experience with CVGS as a student, it differs a little bit from what more recent students have experienced. My graduating class was a little bit smaller, for starters. Half the faculty that was present during my junior and senior year have since retired. I also attended classes in a completely different building, one that no longer exists. One thing that has not changed though, and it remains one of my favorite aspects of Governor School, is our celebration of Pi Day. Now, I don't have a lot of photos, let alone videos of any Pi Days I participated in as a student, so I thought I'd show some footage of me preparing a pie, like one I brought in for a more recent Pi Day, and while I do that, I'll share a bit about my experience of an older CVGS. A recently retired math instructor liked to describe GovSchool students as the best and brightest in the region. Something similar can be said when comparing the new and old facilities. The new building is hands down better and brighter than the old one. The old building effectively split math and science between two floors, which themselves were basically two narrow hallways linked by an equally narrow staircase. There was technically the option to pop out into Heritage and use one of their staircases, but Heritage had their own hallway congestion problems. I did like our little staircase though, as well as our triangular entrance hall. In fact, it had one feature that I think the rest of the facility could have benefited from. Windows. Yeah, those big plate glass windows were the only outward-facing windows in the place, which probably contributed to the sense of being a bit cramped as I remember it. Let's just say a Pi Day on the scale that CVGS has seen in more recent years could never have happened in our old Commons area. In terms of sheer floor space, the modern Commons area probably meets or beats that of the old Commons and the adjacent computer lab combined. Much like Pi itself, a list of ways that the new facility improves on the old could go on and on and on. But as long as one of the items on that list is make more room for Pi, I'd say it's a pretty sweet list.
As for the assignment criteria, your video postcard should be 2 to 4 minutes long. It should include at least one moving camera shot, ideally shot using one of the lab's square stabilizer rigs. It should include at least 2 relevant animated text graphics. Said graphics can either utilize keyframe animation or use Premiere's built-in animated graphic templates. Your video should include at least 2 pieces of media that have been animated using keyframes. This is in addition to the 2 required text graphics. Just like the show and tell video, you should focus on attributes like scale, position, or rotation rather than opacity. Your video should include at least 1 music track. Like last time, you want to make sure that the music is audible without overpowering your narration. New to this assignment, though, is the expectation that you include an appropriate music credit or credits at the end of the video. As always, Your video should feature audio and video of reasonable quality, and your final video should be submitted with a screenshot of your completed project's timeline. Be sure to name your files correctly, and don't forget about the associated quiz, which is due at the same time. To produce my sample video, I used a clip of my presentation, shot the same way I shot the past two samples. I used a long clip covering the walk from the Gov School entrance over to the Heritage Field, which is the moving camera shot that I captured while using one of the stabilizer rigs. I used 4 photos, a pair of them featuring different Pi days, one of the old Gov School entrance, and one of my finished Pi. I also used a clip from a video production lab project circa 2012. Fun fact, Mr. Secret Agent Man you see here has a doctorate now, and his name can actually be found on a plaque in the Commons. I used 10 clips shot throughout the Pi making process, and I used a Kevin MacLeod track called, that. Don't forget that Incompetech is a good site to get royalty-free music, and it even includes easy to copy and paste music credits. Pexel and Unsplash are also good sources for royalty-free pictures should you need them. Something I will remind you about, if you add an image or video file to your timeline and it doesn't quite fit the frame, it's because the file is either of a higher or lower resolution than your sequence is set to. The size difference can easily be sorted out by using the scale property in the effect controls panel. Like the show and tell sample video, my sample postcard exceeds the criteria a bit in order to demonstrate as many editing ideas as I can reasonably fit into one video. Overall, my sample video took a little more than 4 hours to produce, but I went about recording my Pi prep like I was about to launch a YouTube cooking channel, so I had a fair bit more footage than I expect any of you to be working with, and even then I only used maybe 2/3 of what I shot. As long as you're meeting the criteria that I set forth, you're good to go.